Welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that unlocks the secrets of creating a purpose-driven business so we can all make this world a better place. Come join the conversation. Welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. I'm your host, Lena Monroe. Today, our guest is April Hickey. She's the Chief Growth Officer at Toast. Toast is an organization that works with companies addressing gender diversity and cultural diversity and diversity of all kinds by helping them with their hiring practices. I just want to let viewers and listeners know that this particular episode was recorded right before the U.S. elections. And you see, DE&I was a very hot topic in the States before the elections and even currently. Here at All Purpose, we very much believe and encourage diversity. That said, I was really impressed by how April broke it down because it just made sense. April talks about how innovation and diversity, they go hand in hand. Why? Because if you have the same people in the room with the same backgrounds, the same experiences, maybe the same schools, they're having the same conversations. But when you have a diverse set of backgrounds and perspectives, that's when innovation flourishes. That's just logical. So I hope that you watch or listen to this episode and you're able to take away some really key insights about diversity and how it matters. It matters to your bottom line. Thanks so much. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. And we're very excited about our guest today, April Hickey, the Chief Growth Officer at Toast.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Yes.
So Toast is unlike a lot of entities that we've actually that we've interviewed, people we've interviewed, companies we've interviewed. I'm so excited about it because it's a focus of women and tech and all things that explore sort of gender biases. It's actually such a beautiful and original and incredible concept.
Thank you.
And so I think anybody who is interested in really eliminating biases of all kinds will find this absolutely fascinating.
Thank
and it's
you.
A new organization, just a couple of years old.
2 years
right?
old.
You're doing incredibly well. You're doing
Thank
incredible
you.
things. Okay, tell me, what is Toast?
I have to do my whole elevator pitch right
Sure,
now.
do everything. You can do anything.
So basically, we exist, as you mentioned, to get more women hired in tech. This was really based off the experiences my co-founder and I had while we were in tech, where we had actually met each other when we sought community outside of our workplaces. We both joined a board, ended up meeting other like-minded women. Both of us doubled our salary within a year once we started having more conversations with women. But our CEO, my co-founder, she was working at a bank at the time and was really struggling to hire on her team and to get gender parity. And the business wasn't really seeing it always as a business problem, that there were no women applying for these jobs. And so, we both had experiences where we had gone out into our network and brought in women and convinced women to come apply for these jobs. Which is really interesting because we do hear that often from our clients, just that women don't apply. So we decided to, see if we could solve for that problem in two ways. One, we wanted to make sure that there was community for women in tech. And so we have a community where women can come in. They have access to an HR lawyer, upskilling, hackathons, all of these really exciting things. Career coaches as well. We know there's a lot of financial barriers for women to access career coaches. But on the flip side, we wanted to work with organizations that wanted to increase gender diversity on their tech teams and on their teams in general. And we're really serious about it. And so we launched, January of 2022. It's been a very wild ride, very crazy. We now have over almost 20,000 women in the candidate pool across Canada and the US. We have over 125 clients that we work with, so large enterprise down to startups. And it's been really incredible too. We've had a lot of inbound sales, which has been really great. Just a lot of companies that are trying to figure out, how do we support women? How do we ensure that, women feel that this is a safe place for work, that they can thrive, that they can grow in? It's been really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Toast then, is it, as an organization, then is it a meeting place?
We are a social enterprise.
A social
basically.
enterprise.
So it's funny that this is exactly the topic of your podcast.
Yes.
People, I think, sometimes don't know what box to put us in. They're like, wait, are you a nonprofit? And we're like, no, we're not a nonprofit. We are a profitable business, completely bootstrapped, but we just have purpose. behind it.
Yes.
And so having those two aspects, the B2B aspect which is primarily our revenue driver, obviously, is our recruitment arm. We have 5 recruiters that work with us. It's very busy. But just the fact that we try and provide support for women, people push us often to be a nonprofit, because if you have purpose attached to it, there's no way you can have purpose and profit.
I agree.
People get very confused by the social enterprise aspect, I think.
I think, and for us, our company, we're a B Corp. And we've interviewed actually quite a few B Corps, but you don't have to be a B Corp, of course, to be really committed to social impact or environmental impact. But you're absolutely right. The first thought I think a lot of people have is nonprofit, not-for-profit, right?
Immediately.
And I think that's got to change. There's got to be a huge shift in thinking that you can have, and you should have, purposeful businesses that make profit, because those profits can go back into that purpose. And
it doesn't
impact,
have to be one or the other.
I
often, and I don't think everything is about gender, but I do often wonder how often men are asked if they are a nonprofit. Right? It is typically women who are running these purposefully led businesses. It is typically, not always. But it does frustrate me sometimes and we've even applied for some grants where we've been turned down. They're like, no, but if you're a nonprofit, we'll give it to you.
Oh my God.
That's part of the same purpose.
That's insane.
So if we offer the same programming,
but
if we structure, because it's so backwards. It's a very archaic way of thinking.
That is yesterday's capitalism. And, things do have to change. That's probably why we started this particular podcast, because of the same sort of things that we were coming across, that people still have this very limited sort of idea of what a profitable business is and can be. And I wonder, I'd like to ask you, do you feel that there's a disproportionate amount of women, though, who are the face of a lot more impact businesses? Or is it kind of balanced?
I would say it's quite balanced. I would say there's quite a few women. It typically, again, I don't think everything is a gender thing.
But a lot is.
A lot is. Unfortunately, sometimes the primary pushback that we've even gotten, specifically around funding or someone asking me if we should be a nonprofit, is from men who suggest that to us. Which I get very frustrated. In one particular call, I was speaking to a funding body in another province from here, and I went through a graduate program for corporate social innovation, and I challenged him on the call. Have you ever heard of corporate social innovation? Do you know what social innovation is? Give me a definition of a social enterprise. Can you understand? Because he was pushing back and saying, well, we could give you this money, but we likely would only give it to you if it was a nonprofit. And I was trying to explain to him the difference and getting him to explain to me why. Why do I need to be a nonprofit in order to want to make a difference in the world?
Agreed.
And I don't know if you've ever done Brene Brown's values exercise.
I have not. I love Brene Brown.
It's such a great one. I encourage people to do it all the time. You can just go onto her website, you print out this piece of paper, and she's got a whole list of all these different values. And I mean, the premise is if you have more than 2 priorities, you have no priorities. And so I carried it around for almost 4 weeks, and I'd pull it out of my pocket and cross something out, like forgiveness, not a value of mine. And then I'd put it back in and think about a couple others. And it was such a great exercise for me to dig into which of my values do I think other people expect me to have? Or what values do I want to portray to the world but aren't really truly mine? Anyways, after 4 weeks of carrying this ratty old piece of paper around, I did find that one of mine is making a difference. And so for me, if I am running a business and this is something I am dedicating my life to, and this is, time that I'm spending away from my children, then it needs to be doing something that's making a business. And at the same time, I can't feed my kids resumes, so I gotta have profit.
It's gotta be something that's making a difference.
Yeah.
But say that again, it's gotta be something that's making a difference, but you also need to be making a profit.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, because you can do that.
Yes, we're proving it. We're proving it.
Absolutely.
We are proving that you can do it. Yeah. We, have never raised, we have built a very successful, financially sustainable business by ourselves that is having a huge impact in the world. And on top of, the great conversations that we have with women and our clients too, that we've been able to get, our clients in front of a different candidate pool. I just think of, the exposure that we've had. We've been featured in Forbes magazine, and, I have a little wall of narcissism at home now for all of the features and all of the times that people wanted to have conversations with us about this. It shows me that it was a good time for change.
So when you say your clients, then I think when I was reading up about Toast and the services provided, I think I got a little bit confused in the sense of, are your clients then the enterprise businesses or are they the women or both?
No, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. Our clients, I'm typically referring to the companies that hire us to ensure that we have that we place women in their companies. But
right, because that's the diverse candidate pool that you're talking about is the women.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But in a sense, they're your clients too. I suppose, right?
Yeah. In a sense, they both are.
And what's also unique, and I think is it your business partner who formulated the AI algorithm that takes gender bias out of the equation. Yeah. That's pretty profound.
Yeah.
So
and Marissa is she is so impressive.
That's incredible.
She has a master's in AI. Of course, one of the very few women in AI in any room she's ever been in her career. Yeah. She also started her career in talent acquisition. So Toast is the perfect marriage.
Yeah.
And this was all Marissa's idea. Marissa started building, and we were friends before working at Toast together. Yeah. And I was running beside her being I think you need a co-founder. I think you need to bring me in with you because everything that she was building was sounding so exciting to me. Yeah. But what she found in her time in talent acquisition, and what we even saw, in being hiring managers ourselves, I carry my own bias. We all do, right? If no one here has ever done the unconscious bias quiz on the Harvard website, I encourage everyone here to go look at it. It's very shameful.
We've done it.
It is very shameful. I actually, me of all people, I had this bias tying women to work inside the home and men to work outside of the home. Wow. My husband typically stays at home, by the way, more than I ever do with our children. So it's funny, but those are bias that we carry.
Yes.
And so when we look at hiring, there's so much ingrained bias in that hiring process. So if we look at someone's name, automatic bias. Right. Automatic if you look at someone's name. If we don't actually add any workplaces for where someone's worked before. I would maybe put fintech startup, because any candidate that has foreign work experience, automatic bias. There's
a bias against that too.
For sure. Yeah. Do not put years that they've worked there. I will put they've worked there for 3 years and 9 months, but with years we introduce ageism, we introduce gaps for maternity leaves. Same with schools. There's socioeconomic bias tied to the school. So we actually create these profiles that we present to our clients. And some of our clients are great. And before we came, they actually had processes where maybe they already blocked out the name because the hiring managers didn't want to know if it was a man or a woman.
So these companies had processes inside that were
absolutely
trying. Okay, so
some of them, not all of them.
Okay,
a lot of them come to us and they're we don't know how to do better.
Right.
Can you help us?
But the fact that they want to do better is huge,
and that's why
a big step forward.
We've done really well with inbound sales. We've been very blessed that way. When I think about that, I would never want to go out to a client and really have to sell to them why they need diversity on their teams or why there is no innovation without diversity. I would never want to have to push that. So we've been very lucky that the clients that work with us are just as value aligned.
They've already got there somehow.
As we are. Yeah. And it's funny because if we talk about bias, one of my now favorite clients and one of my favorite stories to tell is we had a company approach us and they were a trucking company. Okay. Immediately I was like, F no, absolutely not. I would absolutely never place a woman in a trucking company. But I'll have this call with them and I'll see how it goes, I guess. And my co-founder and I both were like, absolutely not. We're never working with these people. I hung up the phone. Not only do they already have 50-50 gender parity on their tech teams, which is incredible.
Yeah.
They offer a paid mat leave for women. They have L&D bonuses. They came to me arms wide open. How do we write our job descriptions better so that women want to work here? How do we create safe spaces? Are there courses that we should be putting our men through to make sure that they are creating safe spaces for women as well? I know. And so
that was trucking company bias that you experienced.
Yeah. I was the one carrying this bias around these men.
I would have that. The moment that you said trucking company, right away, my bias kicked in.
If you saw a job posting for a trucking company, would you apply for it?
No, I know. Oh my gosh. I just admitted that. It's true. I have trucking company bias.
You totally do.
And especially if the trucking company, I'm going to say this, if it came from Alberta, I'd be like,
doubly biased.
And
they are Alberta. So absolutely. no way any woman. And so I could understand why they struggled to get women in the door and why they were like going out and sourcing them themselves. And so, you know, we would have to go up to candidates and be like, hear us out. Like, let me talk to you about
sounds
this.
so good. I want to work for them. That sounds so
honestly, good. I like go to dinner with them, and these two specific gentlemen on their team, they're like, I just call them like our old dads. They're so great.
I love them.
I know.
I don't know who this trucking company is. I love them.
Fantastic. But again, here's my own bias that could have stopped me from creating this impact where we've now placed 3 women with that company. And it has changed these women's lives. They work in these great safe spaces now. And we've been able to help get this client in front of a brand new candidate pool that never would have been. So it's been great helping women, obviously, but also helping these clients has been really, really great in me feeling as though I'm making a difference.
And, you know, that trucking company also, this is a great example that you brought up for so many reasons. My mind is blown with all the bias. The way bias, you know, rears its ugly head. But that's another example of a company that actually the purpose of it isn't just necessarily trucking. You know, the purpose of it is also there's a strong social purpose and equality that they're living by engaging in these practices. You know? So that's just when we think about Toast, can you tell me what is the purpose of your business?
I mean, we have so many of them. I think it's to give voice to those that are unheard. And truly, I would say our purpose is to make a difference. I hope that is what we do every day in everything. We have no problem challenging the status quo. And I know before we kicked off this podcast, I was giving you all multiple examples of times that we have called people out on LinkedIn. And we have had an idea to create like a bot that would probably just go online and call people out all day long.
Well, yeah, you guys could create that. I mean,
100%. But I also think it's important for us as founders to try and set the stage for other women to feel like they have that voice to call out these things as well. Whenever we see a panel of all white men, for example, which is very tough. 90% of tech leadership is white men. However, you're not even trying. It's 2024.
Right.
We don't need that. Do you know what I mean? That is not, we can't do that. And the same thing I think goes for women too, though.
Yeah.
We can't have a panel of all white women either. And I think we often forget that mainstream feminism upholds white supremacy. And so it is all of our jobs to understand our bias, our privilege, the different things that we carry. And I think at Toast, we really try and push that and live into those values.
You are amazing. Oh my gosh, April. Okay, not only is Toast up to so good, you're up to so good. They're up,
Don't make
up
me
to
cry.
so good. You want to sing it, don't you? See, it's fun.
Okay, I'll try it.
Ready?
Okay.
All right. The beautiful company, Toast and April, and your co-founders, you're all up to so good. It's fun.
You did say you'd make me sing.
Oh, but you kind of want to, though, right?
I would rather rap.
I feel like. Do you want to rap it?
No,
okay, you can rap
I
it.
think I'm okay. I'm good. my boys at home do make fun of me that when I sing, that people's ears bleed.
No.
So I will have to show my sons this.
That is the job of children. It's okay.
Yeah, they keep me humble. I was recently featured in this magazine, and when it came in print, I showed my son. I was like, look at how exciting this is. And he started to read it. And then he just handed it to me. He's like, sorry, Mom, this is really boring. I was like, okay.
Well,
keeping me humble.
Yes, there you go.
Yes.
The honesty.
But I like that. We're up to so good.
Up to so good.
I mean, we are trying to become a movement, and we were referred to as a movement this year, and I took it as just the coolest compliment.
That is the coolest compliment.
Yeah, we are definitely trying. Yeah.
Okay, so take me back.
Okay.
What was it that sparked it? No, this is something that like we absolutely have to do. And we're going to do it like this.
I think some of our biggest successes have been in having conversations with clients or women on the changes and impact that we've had in their lives. But if I think back to those early days, you know, we had imagined a movement. We had imagined challenging the status quo. Yeah. We had imagined women getting paid what they deserve and feeling confident to negotiate for higher salaries. Why do people not post salaries anymore? Like, we all need to make money to survive. This is and like, have you seen what it costs for strawberries these days? Like, people need to make money now. So we need to have conversations about that. I found that myself, you know, after, which I alluded to earlier, after meeting Marissa and finding another community of women and having these open conversations about what other people were making. If we're not talking about how much money we're making, the only people that benefit are the companies and corporations. By keeping it, there are some corporations that were telling people not to talk about their salary, which is just sickening and infuriating, because it keeps people in poverty, it keeps people small. And so, you know, I'm blessed with this like natural defiance, and I've been that way since I was a little girl, but not everyone has that confidence or even that safety, that psychological safety in their workplaces or in their communities to feel the need, like that they could stand up to things. And so, you know, when we go into the Toast community now and I read some of the Slack messages of women being like, thank you, I came in here, I asked for advice and I was able to negotiate a higher salary, or I walked away from my toxic job where there was misogyny and racism that was blatant there, things like that. I think
so many stories of misogyny and racism, and like, I mean, I think that that's also not necessarily talked about in terms of women and their lived experiences, and people of color and their lived experiences, you know, and you know, people, I think they do need to talk about these and just share stories. And from my own experience, I was a lawyer before I became producer, writer, director, and, you know, co-founder of this enterprise and all that. So I've seen a few different worlds and how misogyny has shown up in different spaces. And it's all in all the spaces. Personally, maybe I'm biased. We're all purpose. It's a pretty good company. We're a good company. It's a good company. Hey, ladies.
Like and follow.
We're a pretty good company, yes. But it's in my own, you know, seeing the change in the 90s and 2000s and 2010s onward, there has been a change, but it was not even that good 10 years ago. And 10 years is not that long ago. You know, I mean, Me Too, I think, was huge.
Oh my gosh,
triggered everything.
Say all the time that there's so much power in simply saying Me Too about anything. I'm really glad that movement started for what it did. But for everything, because shame, if we put on that shame suit, shame keeps us quiet. It keeps us smaller. And we carry this shame with us over things. I personally carried a lot of shame. And I would say in the past 2 years, becoming an entrepreneur, I've just been able to like unarm myself and just really truly be me, and I've never felt more comfortable in my skin, which has been really incredible.
I feel the same way.
It has been like so incredible to really own my
happens
story.
With age though too. Like there's a changing
true.
environment, and also with age, as we get older. I mean, that's my advice to women in their 20s and their 30s. I don't know how old you are. You look very young.
I'm almost 40.
Kind of
I'm
young.
Getting to 40.
Oh, I'm older. I'm way older.
Though. I feel like my 40s are going to be good years. I'm very excited.
40s
I keep
are great.
hearing that.
It's going to get better and better and better.
And I feel like even with my own boundaries and my own, like, here are what my priorities are right now. Right now, they're my business and my family, and that's it. And if I have other free time, it's going to be for me being alone, because I'm actually very introverted.
So
I am an extroverted person, but I'm an introvert. I need copious amounts of alone time in order to do my job and be as public facing as I am.
And protect
and
that.
I want to be alone. I went on 2 solo trips this year because I just wanted to be.
Very nice.
And my husband's very supportive of it, which is great, because obviously we have 2 kids. But I was like, I'm out. And even I was just talking to him. I'm going to try not to get emotional talking about it, but I'm coming up on a huge milestone in my life. I'm going to be 10 years sober on February 1st.
Congrats.
I quit drinking 10 years ago, but I said to my husband, I want a couple days alone to sit back and reflect on like what that looked like for me, what that was. And he's just like, yeah, let's like create that space for you to make sure that you have that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's huge.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's a good one.
I can't wait to see all the things that you guys are going to be doing with Toast. I mean, Toast is so young, and it's really on fire. Not like in a burnt toast kind of way, but like in a good,
but like a good,
where does French toast
kind of.
Where does name come from?
It's like toast your 9 to 5 goodbye was a good play on words, so that we could get people new jobs, but also get that bread for making money.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
Clever.
Yeah. So there's some good little taglines.
Where do you guys see yourself going? What's your dream?
Again, I think that there's still a lot of work to do, judging by what I see when I open up LinkedIn. Look at our ecosystem and the current state of it. I mean, gosh, we were just talking even politics before this, and when you look sometimes at like the political
Can we
landscape.
talk about that?
Yeah, we can
just
talk about politics.
that, you know?
I mean,
This is going to air after the elections, so
okay, yeah, there's like some scary shit out there. Sorry for swearing, but there's some really scary people. Again, if we talk about misogyny and racism, look at the U.S. elections right now. I worry about our ability to continue to expand in the U.S. If Trump has made threats that he would make any D&I initiative illegal in his country.
Let's think about how nuts that is.
Yeah,
any
D&I, any initiative within an organization that is aimed at
fairness, justice, equity, diversity,
any
inclusion,
sort of
anything
promotion or like advocacy for
like
any sort of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, any of that, all of that language would have to be removed, and we wouldn't be able to operate in the U.S. So again, this just goes to show how much work there still is to do if we have people believing it and people vote for him.
I know, it's just wow. Oh,
people and women vote for him.
Oh, I know.
Women.
I don't get it.
Can we talk about what he said on the bus that day years ago before his like, come on. And we have women
that grab him by
yeah.
I mean, what hasn't he said? I mean, it took me a second because he said so much stuff.
I feel
so
like
much stuff.
When I listen to I feel honestly when I listen to even the debates that I'm being gaslit through the
100%.
TV.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
there's every time he speaks, there's gaslighting.
But he doesn't even say anything. When he speaks, he doesn't say anything.
No, he doesn't. That's true.
He just like says words, but he's not saying anything.
And it's interesting that he has so much support, and it's like it's so funny because it's not like he's paired up with some equal. She is outstanding. Kamala's outstanding.
Oh,
she's so
sorry.
well
I thought
qualified.
you meant his wife.
No. Poor her. I feel so sorry for her. I mean, like,
apparently she just got a nice comfy life. She doesn't even look at him.
I feel like people are sneaking her little like, do you need help on cards? Sneaking. Do you know she's never even around anymore? She just kind of like does her own thing.
Yeah, she just like hangs out. Does her own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I meant in the sense of his opponent. His opponent is not an equal. His opponent is someone who is so much far greater than him. I mean, like her resume, her spans, all this stuff spans. And it drives me nuts when people say that that's a diversity and equity hire. And it's like, she just happens to be a woman and a person of color. Can we just say that? Like, why do we have to go there? It just happens that everyone else has been a white man. Everyone else.
Which is
so this looks a little bit unusual now. Yes, that's how fairness works. It looks a little unusual.
Fascinating too, because so even when we talk about candidate pools at Toast, in discussions with my clients often, I actually say, and it depends on how chill my client is, but I will say I don't really care if people hire another like mediocre white man for the role. Just make sure that you have a candidate pool that's representative of the community that you serve.
Exactly.
You cannot do that from a candidate pool of all white men.
Or all any homogenous.
Any sort of
group.
You need to have reflection of the community that you're serving.
Like I think that is critical. Having reflection of the community you're serving. That's it.
So when companies come to me and they're like, okay, like I met with a company on Monday, today's Tuesday, so yesterday. I met with them and they were like, yeah, we put up for these engineering roles and we got 300 applicants and only 2 of them are women. Okay, so then you cannot actually proceed. Then you need to go out and source or hire a company like us or someone to make sure that even if you're interviewing and you're going to shortlist to 10, again, what does the community that you operate in look like? This company is in Calgary. Cool. 1 in 4 people in Calgary identify as a person of color. So you need to ensure you have that.
At least 25%
50% of the population is women. So let's have that. Like at least set these metrics for yourself that if you're hiring someone, you go find those people to make sure. Because you cannot have, at the end of the day, when we think about diversity, obviously the first things that come to mind are like sexual orientation and race and all like gender, all of these things. But at the end of the day, what you're looking for is a diversity of background, which brings a diversity of thought and experience and all of these things, so that if you're going to innovate, if you keep hiring the same guy from University of Waterloo, whose parents put him that, do you know what I mean? You're not going to get a different thought process.
That's not innovation. Yeah, it makes sense.
You're not going to innovate. You are never going to come up with the different ideas, and you're never going to, and this is, again, the conversations I have with my clients. When I have clients who come to me, we can have a great conversation like this. I'm like, perfect. You are
Yeah.
someone that we will work with. But if I have to really understand, like make people understand that,
Yeah. You shouldn't have to sell it. It should just be self-evident. It should be, like just in general, like human rights. These are self-evident terms.
Yes.
Fairness.
Yeah.
Kindness, in my opinion, is also pretty self-evident.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Equity.
These are self-evident terms.
It's
right?
an easy thing.
So, what kind of challenges do you experience, though? Has there been resistance? And if so, what does it look like?
Yeah, it's really interesting because before we launched, we had these personas of, the clients that we thought we would attract and people that would support us. And we actually had this entire persona of like tech bros being like, we support women and being happy to kind of partner with us. However, I have actually found the greatest resistance have been from men. And that being said, I have a really close girlfriend. She's going to roll her eyes because I quote her all the time, but her name is Roselle Gonzalez. She is the head of D&I at a large financial institution. And she reminds me when I went to her once and I was like, I just don't understand why all these men are so angry with us. And she reminded me that if we are pushing back against the system, anyone who benefits from that system is automatically going to be threatened.
Oh, it makes sense.
Right. And so, of course, we are threatening this system in which they benefit from. They already get, of course, there's 300 of them applying for a job. Chances are they're probably one of them is going to get the job over the 2 other people that are in a different represented group, right? And so that has for sure been a challenge. I also think as an entrepreneur myself, it has been challenging. Again, so we're our first time doing this. We don't always know what we're doing, and we're trying to balance this profit and purpose. And a really good example of that, we were early on. I think we only had 2 clients at this time. I don't even think we had any revenue. And we had a client come to us who had expressed that they wanted us to help with the search, and they were blatantly racist. They had expressed in their search that they would rather hire someone who had Shopify experience over someone who had experience from Nigeria.
Wow.
I'm going to highlight this because specifically this was like a fintech. And I don't know if you know any Nigerians, but there's a large community in Calgary, and a lot of them had already worked in fintech. And the funny thing is, they have a far more developed banking system than we do. So if you actually hired someone who had that banking experience, you would be hiring someone with way more experience than someone who worked in Canada.
Amazing.
So we had a lot of conversations around this specific client before deciding that we actually had to sever ties with them. And so
what was this racism stemming from? It's very specific.
It actually happens all the time. This woman was an old school oil and gas recruiter in Calgary. Wow. It is what it is. Sometimes that is not value aligned to us. And so, finding that, and that was very early on. Again, we were only a couple months old then, and we had decided in that moment, you know what, we're actually going to pass on this client. We cannot say that we're looking for safe spaces for women and that we're like pushing, and this specific recruiter is asking us to change everything that we stand for. So I would say that was, and continues to be a challenge, is to make sure that companies that we're working with are aligned to us and what we want.
It is a challenge. We've done it too.
It is, because turning down work, could have used the money.
Agreed.
We definitely could have used the money, especially at that time. But, in hindsight, I think that those moments really helped define to us what our purpose was and what we were going to stand for. We also let go of a client last year who had let go of all the women on their board. And I sent a very strongly worded email to him, to the chair, the CEO at the time, and just let him know why we were no longer aligned to him. So I think those have been some challenges. And then, again, on the personal front, I would say trying to find that quiet introvert time that I need when, like my children need me and the business needs me and all of that, I would say has been like a big challenge as well.
It's good that you're clear about what it is you need to refill. So
now, year one, year one was like not quite as good. I burnt out in the fall last year a little bit, and I have a really great mentor who, she just kept encouraging me. She's like, go to the forest, take your shoes off, put your feet on the earth, go breathe in the forest.
That's a thing. It works.
It is legitimately a thing that works. And now I'm much more intentional in looking at my calendar far in advance. Again, talking with my husband about February, like, hey, so I know I want a couple days like by myself to do these things. I also know March is going to be busy, so I'm going to carve out these times. And I think that has been a good practice for me. Yeah.
So where do you find the clients who are values aligned? How do you attract this?
Again, we've been really lucky that we've had a lot of inbound. I think our brand now is large enough that people are talking, people are hearing about us. We do have events. Yeah. And part of, the membership helps build up that candidate pipeline as well.
Right.
We just hosted a summit where we had a Women in Tech Summit in Calgary. We had 500 women come.
I would have gone.
Oh my gosh. It was so great. You have to come next year. You have to come next year. We're also doing one in Toronto next year in June. And we had like really big names sponsor it. So I think our brand is out there. People know what we stand for.
Will you be hosting one here in Vancouver too?
I don't know.
Oh,
maybe.
Great. And we have a space.
Okay. Maybe.
Well, we should talk after.
Yeah. I mean, we did have someone offer to sponsor it already. One in Vancouver specifically, which is funny.
Things are aligning.
I'm like, yes. It's hard because like the first 2 years, we really wanted to build up brand awareness, but I didn't want to be known as an events company. But events worked for us. It really did, especially in sharing our purpose, which is such a big piece of how we attract the right clients.
Yes.
I found that if I'm speaking on a stage, which I get lots of opportunities to do now, and I'm very grateful for them, but if I can explain to people why we do what we do and why it's so important and why we should support women, people immediately can resonate with our story and why it's important. And then clients just kind of come that way. But at the same time, I don't want to spend all day planning events.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one.
No, that's true.
Yeah, it's a balance
so
for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in the all-purpose sort of the vault at our company because
it's so cool.
We're trying to unleash the secrets of good business and impactful business, and the acoustics are really good in here.
What was this vault before?
This was an actual bank vault. This building is over 100 years old. And we have the first 2 floors, as you can see outside the vault. And anybody who's listening will not actually get a sense of, I think, this space. So,
it's cool.
This might be a good episode to look on YouTube. But the entire office here at one time was a bank. And the building is a heritage building. And so for us, it was a beautiful space, for anything and all things creative.
I was going to say, I feel very creative in here. That's fascinating.
It's a space. Let's talk a little bit about the kind of stories of misogyny. And I want to bring this up because I think that this doesn't really get talked about enough amongst both women and men. And many times people in these industries, in tech or, our background, we have a lot of our team from film and TV. As I said before this, I was in law. I don't think people really realize how much misogyny is out there, and they're not aware, men or women even. They're not aware. So do you want to share some stories of some of the stuff you've heard? You don't have to name people.
I swear I'm making a coffee table book with all these stories one day. Mark my words, it's going to happen.
I feel like it's always a system. It feels like it's this.
It is a systemic issue. Of course, the patriarchy, right? Like we operate in this like white supremacist patriarchal society where we promote people or encourage people to act masculine. And I'm acutely aware that I'm raising 2 boys too, which is something that's like very close to my heart. And so I do have to watch what I say. Honestly, I do.
So you're very passionate about this. Yeah. And, Toast is making a difference. You are making a difference.
Thank you.
What was it? What started all this for you? Why are you here?
Well, like I said, I like giving voice to the voiceless sometimes. I personally, so yes, I am where I am now. However, my life looked much different when I was young. I was raised into a family of parents who weren't quite ready to be parents. And so I had addiction in my home at a very young age, which gave me some different skill sets trying to navigate a parent who is very unpredictable. Definitely, it raises anxious human beings. But it also helped me navigate really difficult situations as I turned into a teenager and found myself out of a home. I lived in homeless shelters when I was younger. Teenager? Yeah. Oh. And in group homes and foster care. And it was, a really sad experience. It was really hard. When I look back on what that kind of gave me, I really wanted to be seen, but more than that, I really wanted to be able to make a difference and make sure that, you know, other people felt that they had a voice and that they can pull themselves out of hard situations because we've all experienced it. And so, you know, now when I look back on how far I've come, I think that I like this quote that we are given this baggage to show other people how it can be unpacked. And so
that's beautiful.
I like, it is really fantastic.
Yeah.
I heard that once and I was like, oh, that's so, it is what it is. And so I feel so grateful that I have this opportunity now to tell these stories and share these stories. And I'm still, you know, trying to navigate that. I have a parent right now who I was mentioning before the podcast is very ill. And I'm, you know, still trying to balance being a good person and being a good human, even if that person wasn't a great human to me my whole life growing up. Because I think that we have this opportunity as human beings to show up for others. And I think that that's part of human connection and why we're here. So how can we be of service to other people, and how can we lift other people up? And I think corporations specifically have this really unique and huge opportunity. We live in this capitalist society. It is what it is. But when I was looking at a graduate program and what I wanted to do for my master's, Royal Roads University was just launching this corporate social innovation program. And so I enrolled myself, keeping in mind, I never finished high school. Like, I dropped out of school because I was in foster care and I was like often running away because I felt unsafe. And so I never finished high school. Going back to get a degree or, you know, to go to university and then go to graduate school was not something I ever thought that I would do. And so I wrote a very compelling entrance letter. It was admitted. I actually graduated with an A average as well, which I'm totally going to flex on because I did not even finish high school and ended up doing that, which was super cool. And then they had me come back this year, and I was the orator. I did the convocation speech for the MBA grads this year, and I sat up there and I told this story. I talked about, you know, that our beginnings do not have to define our ends, and how much I reflect on that. And after I got off stage, the dean came up to me and he shared with me that he used to be the deputy minister of children's services here in BC before getting the job at the university. And he told me that less than 3% of children who are ever in the system ever go on to get degrees, let alone go on to get master's level education. And he told me that all that I've done with Toast is everything he had ever imagined when he was building that social innovation program. I know. Wow. I cried.
I'm getting
I know. I cried a lot. And my husband was like, I knew you were one in a million. but it was like really incredible to get that validation to see. And I did get a lot of feedback, obviously, after that. And I'm actually doing a TED Talk this year on that exact kind of topic, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, I'm very excited. But I think that's why, you know, I want to continue to use my voice to show people that we can use our experiences and like take those experiences and use them for good. Absolutely. And I think everyone has those. Yeah. And it's just trying to engage everyone to do that.
Earlier, just as a joke, we were talking about, you know, some of the values. I think you said jokingly, oh, you know, the different priorities. I can focus on these two. Maybe forgiveness isn't one.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that. I mean, there's been, you've experienced a lot more than an average person would experience. And you touched on forgiveness. Have you been able to forgive?
It's funny that we're talking about this right now because I talked about this at lunch today. I had a really nice lunch with someone just up the road. And she had kind of alluded to having a similar upbringing. And this was like a business lunch, and I'd never met this woman before in my entire life. And then I like prodded her, and she said at lunch, she was like, I'm never going to forgive my mom, and that's okay for me. And I was like, hey, I know we don't know each other, but can we back up and talk about that? Because I've spent a lot of time with my psychologist. We've been together for 8 years, by the way. I have the world's greatest psychologist, and she has really helped me process my childhood and all that that has happened to me in a really positive way, and helped me understand my brain, why I am the way I am, and what drives me. And I put on a huge focus last year on really trying to find forgiveness for specifically one of my parents. I think I have resentment because I was able to like pull myself in a really hard place and change my life specifically for my kids too. I do it for me, but my kids were a big driver. And so I have resentment that my parents were not able to do that for me. And so I had set out with my psychologist, you know, can you help me find this forgiveness? And every time I thought that I was making progress, I would see that parent and get triggered all over again. And everything would come up for me. And, you know, I remember that parent saying to me once, wow, it's so cool that you've been able to do so much, even though you went through all of these things. And I thought I was going to lunge across the living room that day. I was like, well, but I went through all these things because you placed these roadblocks in front of me. And I actually think, and I was really worried that I would come to a period where I was going to be losing one of my parents, and I still had not found forgiveness. And I've actually come to a point now where I think that's okay. I don't think we have to forgive everyone all the time. I do think it's important to let it go and like stand in your boundaries and like find a way.
Maybe that is what forgiveness is. Do you know what I mean? Forgiveness is really more about and I say this because I too have had to find places of forgiveness for a few people, as well as, you know, one parent in particular who's quite volatile, and a culture, my own culture that's not very kind to women, not very forgiving in many ways, and just experiences, and a lot of it is wrapped up in misogyny. A lot of it, anything that I can put in a category of violence has always been in a violent towards women category in my own life.
Volatile is such a good word, too.
Right?
It really is. Yeah, it paints such a picture of what you're trying to describe.
And it's something that you also said was you know, when you are dealing with, say, like a volatile parent, there are certain gifts you get, unfortunately. There is something wrapped up in the anxiety, yes. Yeah. And then there's something about being able to, I had to learn how to read people really well. Yes. And, you know, that's been a beautiful gift. Because
it really is.
You never know when the volatility will erupt. Yeah. And, you know.
And also I think, you know, pivot to different circumstances. Like, I thought this was how today was going to go, but it's not. So let's just like roll with how it is. But I do love how you just explained that. It was really beautiful. Because I'm not quite at a place of, I probably never will be at a place, especially as a mother now. There's times where I look back and I just think that there's things that kids should never have to experience or go through. But in that same vein, I think it's given me more love for just, you know, humanity as a whole, a reminder that I'm not unique. These things happen every day to like kids and adults, and you know, addiction specifically. Yes, it destroys families, but we see it outside every single day, and it's really sad. It's really sad. And so I think if we're talking about even me too, whenever I talk about addiction or a parent who has suffered from addiction issues, everyone I talk to is like, oh yeah, I have a brother, sister, mother, aunt, whoever, who I've like helped. It touches everyone's lives. It really does. And so finding that space for empathy for those people, I think, is probably a big piece of like finding your way to forgiveness. Yeah.
Do you feel with the work you're doing and where you are at your life now, you are living your purpose?
Yeah, I'm like living my dream.
Yeah, I could tell. I can just feel it.
I'm gonna cry just even saying I have everything and more that I've ever dreamed of.
Yeah. Well, there are many who will be listening or who will be watching this podcast looking ultimately for that. You know, there'll be people who will be wanting to create a purposeful company. But really, at the end of the day, I think everyone's looking for purpose. Yeah. And so what advice do you have for someone who's still looking for purpose?
I think you just have to take that step. I think a lot of us are risk givers, especially as women. You know, we want to be cautious. Women are just typically more cautious. And I think we just have to be bullish, especially if it's what you think your purpose is. You just have to be bullish and go after it.
That's a beautiful piece of advice. Thank you for that. Yeah. So your website is trytoast.ca, and can you tell me more about, you know, how people can engage with Toast?
For sure. I mean, like any small business, every like or share or follow helps for sure. So I find us to be very cheeky on LinkedIn and Instagram. But also, if you come to our website, you're interested in hiring women in tech, you're interested in becoming a part of Toast, any of that, you can book a call with us directly on the website as well. So definitely direct people there.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. And that's all the time we have for today's episode of Up to So Good. Because that's what toast is. You want to do it? There?
No.
Up to so good. You could rap it. Don't rap it. That's okay.
I'm good.
I did it for you. This is Up to So Good. I'm your host, Lena Menbro, produced by All Purpose, as well as JPod Creations. And check out our website for more information on this podcast and many more. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, hit the like button, or share an episode. And if you have any feedback, questions, or comments, or show ideas, you can email us directly at hello@allpurpose.io. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next time.